Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Did you know that there are over 80 different autoimmune disorders that affect up to 23.5 million Americans? On the show today, Bob and Rollie discuss the what and whys of autoimmune disorders and identify some of the most prevalent autoimmune diseases. They explain what happens to the body when the immune system makes mistakes and share some helpful techniques that can help realign your immune system and alleviate the symptoms of autoimmune disease. So sit back, relax, and get ready to live forever young.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Live Forever Young Radio. I'm Bob, and I'm here with Rollie today. Rollie, welcome. How are you today, buddy?
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm back in the saddle.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling good for a couple days, but I'm feeling good now, and that's all that matters. So.
And you're ready for tonight's game?
Oh yeah, man. You know that's why we got this on, man. We always talk about the sports teams here in Tampa Bay.
We're about to face the Baltimore Orioles, who have won 2 games in a row.
That's a record, I think, for them this year.
Against the Angels, they had lost 18 games in a row, and now they won their last 2. So they're on a winning streak with the Tampa Bay Rays going into Baltimore tonight.
Right,
So
and
we'll see what happens.
The odds are that they're probably going to not be able to carry that streak on, because I think this year it's Rays have taken 15 of 16 from the O's, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see. Anyway.
So, Rollie, today we're going to talk about autoimmune diseases.
Yes, it's something that affects a lot of people. You don't really realize it.
Many millions of people around the world, and there's over 80 different types of autoimmune diseases.
Yeah.
And an autoimmune disease is when your immune system, which normally is supposed to be on your side and watching for things to attack that are invading, instead mistakenly identifies a part of your body as a pathogen or an allergen and begins attacking it. So like in the case of people that get multiple sclerosis, it's a disorder of the nervous system where your immune system starts attacking the myelin sheath that's covering your nerves, right? Or like in the case of somebody that has arthritis, you've seen people with their knuckles swollen and maybe their hands are crippled, and it can become very severe. My own sister had to have almost every joint in her body replaced with metal joints for that reason. And
how does that work when she goes through metal detectors? She probably has a card, don't they?
Yeah, she does, and it did affect her career. She's a physician.
Yeah, that.
And so with her hands not working as well as they could, she ended up later in her career, becoming more of an administrative doctor, supervisor, not so much working with her hands.
Unfortunately, hands off. Yeah, I had a piano teacher, and I think probably his arthritis was from years of banging on the piano. But either way, it looks crazy. His fingers would zigzag. It looked literally like his fingers were Z's. Yeah. And now that, again, like I said, that's probably natural from banging on the piano for years, but I've seen people that have had autoimmune arthritis. And they're really.
That's when your immune system starts attacking the joints. You also have issues related to your thyroid, right? And you can have an issue where it results in either low thyroid function or very high thyroid function. So Hashimoto's disease is when it affects, and gives you low thyroid, and Graves' disease when you end up with very high thyroid. And you also have type 1 diabetes can be an autoimmune disease where, the cells in your pancreas that are producing insulin get mistaken for a pathogen. Your immune system will destroy them.
Oh, man.
Now you need to take insulin shots.
Yeah, my dad has type 1 diabetes. So I believe it's because of the autoimmune disorder. It started later on in life, so I would think that would be part of that group.
And so, you can imagine now why this is an issue, why we'd want to discuss it and offer some things to do in a little bit here, because it can be very debilitating, or in the case of certain diseases, it can be fatal. People do die at a very young age quite often if they have multiple sclerosis, and certainly you wouldn't survive for long at all with type 1 diabetes without constant treatment.
Right.
And people with type 1 diabetes tend to not live as long as people that don't have it.
Right.
They have a lot more inflammation, and they get problems with their eyes, their periphery, and problems with their kidneys, And so this is why it's so important to know what it is and also what it is that we can do about it.
Right, right. We were talking earlier, there's a lot of causes that you can look at that people think might be causing these autoimmune disorders. Some of them are like what we've had a couple shows about before, actually. We had a show called What's What with Leaky Gut. And one of the causes was leaky gut. Of course, we talk about it a lot as the abundance of toxins that are in our environment these days. And then, of course, on top of that, you always have the inflammation, right? Inflammation is one of the big things we talk about. And the presence of multiple things, including, all the toxins and inflammation, is main causes of this. I mean, there's some other stuff like environmental things, right?
Well, also heavy metals
Right.
that you're exposed to, and foods, right? So we talked on the last show about processed foods and how they can, create inflammation. And in this particular case, also lectins, right, which is a cause of leaky gut. Lectins are in the seeds and skin of tomatoes and in certain nuts like cashews and peanuts.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people, and they say they have stomach issues, and I ask them sometimes what they eat, and they tell me, "Oh, I love eating peanuts and things like that." And a lot of the times I like to eat raw vegetables, with like cucumber and tomato, and things like that have seeds in them all the time. And a lot of the times they don't realize that can be the cause of a lot of those gut issues because of the lectins themselves. They attack that wall, that intestinal wall.
Yeah. Another one that is very well known now is vitamin D deficiency.
Oh yeah.
And
we've been talking about
sunshine
that a lot.
Vitamin, right? Exposure to molds is a big cause of this, and viruses, and also issues related to hormone imbalances, right? So if you are under a lot of stress, and you are secreting a lot of cortisol, you're going to be low in DHEA, and DHEA is needed for the proper functioning of your thymus, which is one of the ways your immune system gets coated. That's where the immune cells will mature. If your thymus isn't functioning properly, then whether it's from lack of DHEA or stress, then that's going to cause those mistakes to be made.
Okay. So I mean, it even goes as far as to affecting the hormonal balance of a person, because when you think about all the things that you have going on in your body, it only takes one of these things to kind of get messed up and throw it off. And that's what's happening. It's a mistaken attack by the body's immune system. And so you got to kind of figure out what it is, where that happened, where the mistake occurred, and try to fix it. And that kind of leads us to what can we do, right, to combat these things, right?
Yeah, and so one of the main things to do is to take care of your gut, right?
Yep.
Take care of your microbiome and the health of your intestinal system.
Yeah, we did a show called
Breaking Down Digestion.
And in that show we talk a lot about the importance of, proper bacteria and flora.
Yeah, and it starts in your mouth, right? People might not think of this, but if you have the wrong balance of bacteria in your mouth, it leads to all kinds of problems with the whole rest of your body.
Right.
So you want to start by making sure you don't have an overgrowth of bad bacteria in your mouth. And then with the rest of your alimentary canal, you want to make sure you have enough good bacteria so that it can suppress the bad bacteria. And also the good bacteria interfaces with stimulants that come into your body, polyphenols and vitamins, and will create genetic expression from those bacteria, which in turn creates metabolites and vitamins that act on the genetic expression of the human genome.
Right.
And this all relates to your immune system and whether or not it's going to be balanced and not mistakenly attack something that you don't want it to attack.
Right. And the gut is, like we said before, is a key to lots of things, and the balance in there. Some of the things that you can actually do on a daily basis are some of the other things we've talked about is like tapping, right? They have tapping that you can do for the immune system.
Yes.
Right? We've talked about EFT, and if you haven't seen that, we have a show on that, how to do tapping. So check that out.
Yeah, and then also as you learn to do tapping, right on our YouTube channel, where you might be watching this show, there's a playlist that has tapping videos, and one of them is tapping for the immune system, and part of it is mitigating autoimmune issues.
Right, and that's why we're here. We're talking about other ways to handle it too. I've talked to some people, and they ask me like, what's the type of nutrition that I should focus on if this is something that like I'm worried about or I'm dealing with, right? So
It's important to remember that the balance of hormones is of extreme importance in the health of your thymus. So you want to make sure that you have enough substrates to be able to make your different hormones. So for example, in the thyroid, you have a thyroid stimulating hormone that initiates a cascade that converts to T4 and T3, and it requires, in one of those conversions, requires 8 different nutrients, and in the second conversion, 12 different nutrients. Okay? These are vitamins, minerals, amino acids.
Right.
And so you want to make sure that you have a comprehensive nutrition product that contains all of those compounds.
Right.
And so when you look at a label of a nutrition bottle and say, hey, we have a multivitamin, multi-mineral, you want to know a number of things yourself, like what are the compounds that are needed for the conversion ultimately to T3. And you want to be able to see if it's in that product.
Yeah, you better be in there if I'm going to try to fix it.
Yeah, and the same thing, you have to have enough energy to make all of your cells function properly, including the cells in your thyroid and in your thymus. Okay, and to be able for those cells to be able to produce energy, you need different substrates that are part of the Krebs cycle where you're producing your energy.
Right.
So you want to know that too. You want to be able to look at a product like Boomer Boost.
Right.
And you want to be able to see, okay, this product has 70 nutrients in it. It's got everything we need for the thyroid. It's got everything we need for the Krebs cycle. And this is how the best nutrition products in the world are formulated, not just we're going to throw a bunch of stuff in there. It's based on the metabolic pathways and the needs that the body has for producing the various proteins and hormones, et cetera, that make us into a full functioning human.
Right.
So that comprehensive nutrition is real important, but also with an emphasis on glutamine and glutathione and omega-3 fatty acids in the case of autoimmune disease are very important, and you can take extra of those if you're having an issue.
Yeah, well, a lot of the times we talk about, there's the foundational nutrition, which is exactly what Bob's talking about. That's what we all need to function properly and make sure we're at our optimal health level. But, if you have a specific health need or a health goal, you sometimes have to personalize what you're doing. And that would be the addition of, say, like something like an extra omega-3s, things like extra glutamine or glutathione, because of their specific ability to help with these type of issues, right?
Or D3.
And D3, right. We can't forget D3. That's everybody, for some reason, forgets it. They don't even test for it anymore, actually. So you have to make sure you ask the doctor, even though it's probably the best marker of overall optimal health. Right?
Yeah.
But that's okay. We're going to figure that out. That's what we're here to do, is share the information. But apart from that, always know, we talked about it earlier, I mentioned it, inflammation, getting that down. So having high antioxidants, foods with good antioxidants, supplements with high antioxidants. We talk about superoxide dismutase, right? The master antioxidant, right? We talk about that all the time. And we have it in stabilized form in our barley product that we have, the Heirloom and Gladiator barley. And that's really important because, as we've said before, the root of many, many chronic diseases, including one of the causes of autoimmune, is inflammation, right?
Yes.
And so by increasing the amount of antioxidants, whether it be from food or supplement, you're only going to help yourself to beat that burn and slow your rate of aging so you can actually age gracefully, right?
Yeah. And you can, we did a whole show on, antioxidants and free radicals.
Oh, yeah.
back about 25 shows ago.
Oh yeah, it was one of our first 5. I believe it's something like inflammation
And your health.
Probably the good thing that people can know is that a lot of what we're talking about, whether it's reducing your inflammation or having comprehensive nutrition, having nutrition that addresses the metabolic pathways of energy and thyroid hormone creation, that if people use a total health system from Boomers Forever Young, each of those issues is addressed in that total health system.
Exactly.
Right? And so that's a good thing to know. And the other thing, Rollie, I wanted to remember to say is we did another whole show just on inner balance.
Right.
And the inner balance is it's referring to an overall strategy of staying balanced, but also to a specific device called Inner Balance, which clips on your ear and helps you to modulate the communication in your brain with your heart muscle and all that. And people can get one of those from the HeartMath Institute.
Yeah.
But that will help to keep your cortisol low, which will keep your inflammation low, right? And it'll also be a friend to your thymus, because your thymus, helping to encode the immune cells, right, needs support from hormones and nutrition. And if you're under stress, you're going to have too much of one hormone and not enough of another, and that's enough to make your thymus really upset.
And malfunction.
And then the other thing is that about the thymus, it's very susceptible to trauma.
Right.
Whether it is a divorce, a death in the family, an illness, an accident, things like that, that your thymus makes mistakes after a trauma.
Right.
It's almost like it's a sensitive little child that has a set of instructions, but if it's traumatized, it has
forgets
a hard
what to
time
do.
functioning
It has
properly.
no idea what to do.
And so, Rollie, and this could be like, lastly, there's a technique of therapy that was designed for helping your thymus after trauma or if you have an autoimmune disease. It's called craniosacral therapy for the immune system. Now, craniosacral therapy was created many years ago by Dr. Upledger, and it's good for a lot of different things, right? For people that have had head trauma or a stroke, or especially babies when they're first born, depending on how they came out of the birth canal. These therapists can work with the skull bones and with your cerebral spinal fluid, and the advanced therapists study how to work with the immune system. And there you can, on Upledger's website, upledger.com,
yes,
there's
I'll put
a
the
phone
link down
number
there.
there.
Yep.
And you can actually call that phone number and say, hey, who do you guys have in my area who has studied craniosacral therapy for the immune system? And quite often, that type of therapy can help to reset your thymus from the trauma and get it going back to the way that it was before. Kind of like a chiropractic adjustment. If your back gets thrown out and the chiropractor can help realign your spine, right? A craniosacral therapist that's trained on how to work with the immune system can reset your thymus and get it back online and performing the way it was prior to the trauma.
Yeah, and it's something that you don't hear a lot about. Craniosacral therapy, the actual word itself, you probably haven't heard a lot. But I can tell you from actually working with people here at Boomers this is real. A lot of the times people are affected by it in different ways that they don't realize, like they can't sleep, right? Or they have a hard time eating, or they have a hard time doing some other necessary function to perform at an optimal level. And they've tried every supplement, they've tried this, they've tried that, but we've actually kind of on more than one occasion have suggested people seek out this type of therapy, and we've gotten more than one call back that says that is what I needed to reset that in this specific autoimmune disorder. Yes, I mentioned the sleeping, but there's lots of people who, once they have a trauma like a car accident or a death in the family, or just the separation of family some way, or anything that would make someone curl up and cry for days, right? The thymus doesn't forget that unless you reset it. And the craniosacral therapy, I can tell you, is one of the ways that I've seen in real life that it's been able to help. So check it out. Upledger.com is what you'd said.
Yeah. And Rollie, I think that's about it for today.
As much as I got.
It was a lot of information in a short period of time. And
to feel free to rewatch it. That's one of the best things. You can hit rewind.
So thank you everybody for watching and listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Rollie, thanks for joining us.
Always.
And we'll see everybody on the next show.
Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Check us out at liveforeveryoungradio.com.